Well, hello and welcome. And today we're going to talk about the myths of buying and building new construction. And we're going to talk about the mistakes to avoid if you are thinking about building and or buying new construction homes. So welcome to At Home with Diane, a fireside chat. We have a smaller fire today because it's pretty warm here in North Carolina, but we got to stick with our fireside chat here, so we got our little fire, our little soul stove. But my guest today is a well-known, well-respected builder here in the local area here in the Triangle, and we are grateful for his time because he's a very busy man. So Trey McDonald is here, and Trey, thank you so much for taking time out.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
So tell people a little bit about yourself, maybe. That'd be helpful.
I've been in the industry since 1995. Started with a national builder in Virginia, and in 2010 started our own company. We did some self-development. We bought finished lots and we built houses. Started small and grew the company to 250 houses a year.
Wow, cool. And all here in the Triangle area, right?
Triangle area, basically Mebane, all in the Triangle, yes.
Okay, all right. Some luxury homes and
we did a mix of product. It was some single family, some entry level, some townhomes. We really like townhomes, but we also did some high end stuff. So it was a mix of products. But our bread and butter was move up, first time move up single families and townhomes.
All right. Lots of people think about building the dream, right? Like they think, oh, I want to build that new house and I want to have everything be fresh and new and all. And so I'm just curious, from your side of things, your experience with things, what are some of the key things that you see or would caution people, or like what they should really know before they even embark on that journey?
I think, well, first of all, make sure that the community's, right for you guys, the right fit from there. So start out, looking for the community, find that right fit. There's a lot of great communities in our area. The schools are important. Make sure you check out that area. If being close to shopping is important to you, make sure you have that. So there's a lot of things to check out for community-wise. And then once you find the right community, research the builders, research the floor plans, find out what you like. But I think most importantly, make sure before you sign a contract, you're represented to know what you're signing.
So each builder technically has their own contract. So what are some of the myths about new construction? Like, what do you think people think when they're, oh, I'm going to build a new house? Like, what are some of the myths people have about?
Well, I think if they're buying a new house, everyone thinks it should be perfect. And, hey, every builder strives to build the perfect house, but no house is going to be perfect. There's going to be some issues. And again, the key is make sure you find a builder that's reputable. Make sure you find a builder that does their service. But things are going to come up, and it's all how you handle it. My truck, when I first got my truck, there was 2 recalls within 2 months. Things happen.
Right.
But hey, I know things happen, and they fixed what was wrong with it, and we moved on. And a reputable builder is going to do that same thing. The other thing too, you might be buying a house from a certain company, but really the project manager on that site is going to be, the key for that. So if that builder has a good project manager that communicates well, it's on top of the schedule, lets you know what's going on, you're going to feel great about it. If that project manager lacks in any of those areas, that's where it gets tough. So a lot of people are like, oh, that builder, he's no good, but really it's the project manager. Because like when we started our company in 2010, my partner, Jason, and I, we built the houses. So we were boots on the ground, like we were the ones doing the work. As we continued to grow, we hired staff, and I had a guy ask me, tell me one time, he's like, I lived in Heritage at the time we were building in Heritage, and he was like, it must, not be fun building where you work.
Right.
And I was like, as long as I do exactly what I tell you I'm going to do, it's fine.
Right.
And if I see you at the grocery store, I'm going to say hi to you.
Right.
Now, if I tell you, hey, I'm going to do A, B, and C, and I don't do that, when I see you in the grocery store, I'm going to be like, oh, there.
What are some of the, like, so some people want to like totally build like scratch. They don't want to go into a a planned community where it's already, things are done and they're sort of picking out model ABC and maybe it's at various stages.
Yeah.
What about someone who's really just taking a piece of land and wants to build? What about that? What are things that you need to think about?
We had a great selections team. So if we had a pre-sale buyer, they would meet with our selections team and make all the selections at one time. The exterior color of the home, the interior finishes, exactly what was going to go into the home. So there was no question. By the time their design center appointments were completed, they knew exactly what was going on. That's going to be the key. Know what you want, and B, make sure that it's documented that, hey, I want this color countertop, I want these color cabinets, I want these pools on my cabinets. Make sure that all that stuff's documented and it's exactly what you want. Because if that all gets done before the build, the things just run so much smoother.
A lot smoother. What are some of the unexpected costs people may need to think about with new construction versus, say, a resale home?
Well, especially during COVID, and when what used to be a $100 window became a $250 window.
So you're saying
lumber spiked at that time, and now with the uncertainty of tariffs, is that going to increase costs again? Still a lot to be decided, determined on how that plays out. But unexpected cost to the builder, because most of the builders' contracts, if you're doing a pre-sale, there'll be a price increase. If the windows were $250 when we signed this contract, but they go up to $300, you have to pay that price difference, on top of the set amount that you've already agreed to. So you just have to realize that price could not be fixed. It could vary a little bit depending on increases of cost.
I see. Yeah. What changes are happening in new construction that buyers need to be mindful of? What's different?
I don't think that much,
No?
really. A lot of builders, especially in the larger master plan communities, are going to packages. Package A, package B, package C. And they'll have it all listed out exactly what that is. So you don't have as much opportunity to pick and choose what you want.
So what's the advantage of not getting into that?
Sometimes too many choices are worse than not enough choices.
It's true.
And so if you offer people too much, and especially if you have a buyer that can't make a decision or changes their mind often, that the benefit of a package is you're avoiding that. The second benefit is you can control your costs because
That's true.
they know your subcontractors know this is the offering, and they can go out and maybe buy in some bulk opportunities to lower
Hedge
costs.
the costs. Yeah. Yeah. So, you have options out there with new construction, right? You can go and find your own space and then hire a builder and then have them develop everything, or you can go to a larger community, sort of a tract builder, I guess, or larger builders and have things sort of already pre-done, pre-prepared, right? And sort of have fixed costs. So let's talk about that, because the words custom build, semi-custom build, and all get thrown around in this industry. I think they get kind of confusing. So tell us the difference.
A custom build is you get to pick out the plan, and you make every selection. The guy that did our plans, he was in our office. He was not an employee, but so we would meet with a pre-sale. We could sit down with him and get an idea of exactly what they want. He would draw the plan, and then we would meet again, go over it. 100%. They would sign off on it, and then the selection process would start. So I would call that 100% custom, where the plan's developed for that one buyer. Semi-custom is where, kind of like what we were talking about, there's, hey, here's the 6 flooring packages, pick one of those 6. That's, in my opinion, that's a semi-custom.
Okay.
So,
what are some of the classic mistakes you've seen? What are some of the cautionary tales you have for people when they're thinking about new construction?
I think just, not knowing exactly what they want. So, what ends up happening is, we're chasing them all the time for selections. So a lot of times people don't think, hey, if I make this one simple change, how it could end up costing more money, and then ultimately could move my closing back further down the road.
What else? What other mistakes?
Not reading and not reading your contract, not knowing exactly
what you signed on
you're
for.
signing for. And I'm not saying, hey, you have to read it, sitting down with that sales agent, but you should read that contract and know exactly, what's in it. A lot of the contracts are written in favor of the builder.
Of course, yeah.
But know what you're signing for.
So just understanding what's going on there. Sometimes people don't recognize the timelines or that when the close date, like the builder, right? The builder decides the close date.
Correct.
And that is the date, regardless. Like, sorry, you're going on a Disney cruise. And most builder contracts, if I'm not wrong, if you delay that closing, there's a cost to you as the buyer.
And I think, we were always very pro real estate agents.
Yes, you were.
We worked well with buyers. I think, if you know a good agent, I think it's important to have representation. They know what to look for. They know what to ask. They know what questions to ask. If I was a new family moving to North Carolina, hey, get together with a good agent and have them, show you around and have some representation when you're going through that process.
I think that buyers out there think because it's new construction, there's no problems, they don't need any guidance or help, that the people building are all for them, which you are. I mean, of course, you want to do the right thing.
And I think there are some national builders that want people to believe that.
Yeah.
But, for us as a small local company, I wanted every agent to know us. I wanted every agent to like, there was benefits to having that agent relationship.
So what are you seeing? Give some.
The market's changed a little bit. Things have slowed down a little bit. I think as interest rates, we've been waiting for interest rates to come down for a while now, and they've been hovering around 7, which again, historically, that's a great rate.
I know.
But, if you're,
it's hard for people to accept that though, but it is true.
I just think the first, 1998, I bought my first townhouse, 7.5% interest rate, and that was a great rate.
Right.
Then. But I think people just got so used to rates being so low that it's going to take a little while to adjust to our new reality. But still a great market, no doubt about it. Still moving houses.
How many permits? How many new builds? Like, what's the? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but just in general, are we seeing an uptick in new construction? Are we starting to catch up a little bit?
Yeah, we were definitely behind for one. I think we still are as far as new builds go.
Yeah.
But I know when you look at the whole market, resales and new construction, I think we're at 3 months inventory.
Yeah, we are.
Now,
yeah, we're at 3 months.
Again, historically that's a great number, but we've been at a month or less for so long that it's like it has people freaking out a little bit, but it's still a good market.
So that says if we sold everything available, we'd be out of business in 3 to 4 months. Yeah. That we're getting to a healthier market of supply. We are definitely seeing more homes available. But anyway, so what other words of wisdom, I guess, would you have for people embarking on new construction that they should be mindful of? Anything else?
Again, research your builder, have representation, know what you're buying, know what you want. Number one, know what make sure everything's in writing, no surprises, and make sure you know how that builder is going to communicate during the process, during the build process. What I always like to do is every Friday give an update to that customer. Hey, this week we're framing. Next week we're going to be in trades.
And as a builder with the process, what are your thoughts about inspections along the way? I mean, obviously the town, the county, they do their thing, but what's your thought about having independent inspections and what?
I'm a fan. So again, it goes back to the individual buyer. If that buyer is going to feel more comfortable because they have a third-party inspection, have that third-party inspection. We allowed it. It's now realize that everything that inspector may find may not really have to be taken care of. And a lot of times they're just giving suggestions. But I've been a fan of third-party inspections. I never was against it. If a buyer wanted to do it, I was all for it. Again, it's just communicating, hey, the house is going to be ready for your inspector on
X date.
June 20th. Make sure that they're set up. Give them plenty of time. And then on the flip side of that, make sure that you give the builder time to get the list, review it, communicate what's going to be done, and then take care of any items that need to be addressed.
And most builders, especially good builders like Trey, are more than willing to work with that, to fix things if they need fixing. Sometimes, he's right, things come up that are in a stage of we're just not there yet, and the inspector might call it out, but it's not something that isn't going to be done. It's just maybe premature in the process. But again, just having those different additional inspections, it doesn't hurt anybody. If they're kind of resistant to extra info, yeah, it's a red flag. It could be a red flag. I agree. Yeah, all right.
And I think we had some buyers that most of them would do an inspection at closing, but some buyers wouldn't do it one at closing, but would do it at 1 year. And, because we did a one year inspection of every home, 1 year service call for every home. So, there's different ways you can do that too as a buyer. Hey, if you think, hey, the county inspectors who all do a great job, are going, this builder's good, the inspections are good. But you still have that opportunity at the 1 year mark to do an inspection as well.
All right. So what you got going on, Trey? Anything exciting, anything new? How do people reach out? What is it that you've got going on in your world?
We got some exciting land deals that we're working on. It's I think we're a year away from building any houses on them, but we're heading in that direction.
All right, good deal. Well, again, Trey McDonald, thank you. He's a very respected, well-known builder, Triangle area here, and he's a busy man, so really I do appreciate his time today. And just to give you a little insight in, if you're thinking new construction, some of the myths and some of the mistakes and things to think about. So thank you for tuning in to At Home with Diane, a fireside chat. And if you got questions or things,
Trey McDonald at capitalcity-homes.com. That's probably the easiest way to get in contact. So
great.
if I can help in any way, let me know, and I appreciate you having me, Diane.
Yeah, thank you so much.